called it a discussion. I put women's Parshat discussion because I want to, if at any point you have a question, or there's something that's in your mind, let's take advantage. You can unmute yourself and you can share something so we can make it, I've learned some Torah, but I believe honestly that there's something that we can all learn from each other, and there's so much wisdom that every person has. So if anybody at one point, just, feel free to like chime in and we'll learn together. So in this, one of the main things, it's in these times, very uncertain times, a lot of darkness. We're in the month of Tammuz. In another week, we're gonna be entering the 17th of Tammuz, the 3 weeks. What can we do? What can we do in these days, right? So thank God we have the Torah, and the Torah is really a guide for us. It comes from the word ora'ah, which is teaching, and everything is in the Torah, like literally, from the loftiest of level to the most mundane thing, we can find it in the Torah. Any question, it always amazes me, that any question that a woman has regarding her kitchen, regarding like my thing that fell in the pot, we call a rab, and there is a source that we can look in the Torah. How blessed are we that we have a manual, now as I'm raising my kids and they're getting older, like that we have a manual, like really, like what to do in life, what are we here for? Like all these big questions are not just philosophical questions, it's very real. The Torah Chaim is the Torah of life. It means or, right? The Torah illuminates us, illuminates our path. And we have to learn it in order to know what is written. If I have a manual sitting about my dishwasher, then I always go on the same cycle, right? Because I don't know that, there's a better cycle that I could be putting for these pots, that it could make it even shinier. Or if I would really look at the manual, I would be able to maximize a lot of the things that we have in our house that we don't necessarily take the time. So many times it's the same in our lives. We kind of get in a rut and we do okay, we function. But why not, if we can tap into the source of life, the source of Torah, and we can be, maybe I can do it this way. Maybe I can like tweak a little bit like that. So it reminds me of a story of there were two businessmen, and they were really good friends, and they liked each other and they were very close. But one guy was an atheist and the other one was a believer, and they were always trying to convince each other about this way, that way. So one time, one of the guys was like tired and he invited his friend over, and on the table there's this like stunning piece of art, this beautiful picture, like gorgeous. So his friend says, wow, this is beautiful. Where did this come from? Like, I didn't know you're an artist. Like, where did this come from? And he says, let me tell you, the most strange thing happened. The other day, I have some ink sitting on the counter, and I walked out, I go to the bathroom, and I come back, and what do you know? It spilled, and he created this like amazing painting. And his friend is like, are you insane? You want me to believe that this little jar of ink spilled and created this amazing, intricate, gorgeous picture by itself? And his friend says, yeah, I don't know, that's what happened. What can I tell you? And his friend says, well, that's just impossible. Look at the colors, look at the structure, look how everything is in balance. And his friend says, so do you think that this world, which is so perfect, everything is so beautiful and everything is so in balance, the ecosystem, and when we learn science, like everything is so perfect, could it be that it just happened to be? Could it be that it just came out of nowhere? Obviously, there's a master of masters. Obviously, there's an artist, Akadosh Baruch Hu, who took care to make every single detail of this world, of this painting. And how beautiful, because I feel like, thank God, we're all believers, right, in this group. We don't have the problem of being an atheist, but how beautiful to remind ourselves that Hashem is really in every detail, that he's the master of the world, he's the creator of the world, and he's involved in every little thing that we do. And he cares. He cares. He chose to create a world that he actually cares. There's a some people that believe in some philosophies and religions that there is a creator, and this creator made the world, and then he, like left it to us, to human beings, to run it. That's not what Torah says. Not at all. Torah says that Hashem, it's like blowing a balloon. If I'm blowing a balloon, I need to constantly keep blowing it in order to get bigger and bigger. What happens if I stop? Like when I'm playing with Noam and I make it like stop. What happens if I stop? Oh, it goes back to being like a nothing, right? To being like a little thing. That's the mashal. That's the parable with Hashem. It says that Hashem is constantly blowing his energy, so to speak, into this world, like constantly. So what would happen if Hashem like stopped blowing? The world just won't be anymore. Like once they ask a question like, oh, how could Hashem destroy the world? Would Hashem send another Mabul, another, like rains? Would Hashem destroy it by fire? Would Hashem send like an apocalypse? And the people said, no, the only thing that Hashem needs to do is stop creating, stop blowing. If Hashem would stop blowing his energy, meaning if Hashem would stop investing his energy into this world, we would just completely disappear. Like we can't even fathom what that means. And it's remarkable. It just shows that Hashem chose to create a world that he's involved in every single detail. He cares. He doesn't need us. He chose to need us. It's like that question, it always gets my kids going, can a Kadosh Baruch Hu, can Hashem create a rock that he cannot push? It's a catch-22, right? If you say, yes, Hashem could create a rock that's like heavier than himself, then you're limiting. Like, what do you mean? If you say, no, how could it be a rock that's heavier than Hashem? There's no way. Then you're limiting Hashem. You're saying Hashem can create a rock that's bigger than him. So either way, it's a catch-22. So what does that mean? So it means Hashem doesn't really need us, but he chose to need us. He chose to be affected by humans. In his perfection, he said, how can a perfect being experience, so to speak, what it means to be imperfect? And he said, through humans. So Hashem had a desire to create this world and to experience it through our eyes. And he made us his partner. So that's why when people are like, where is Hashem, right now with Corona, or where is the God, or how could he allow so much suffering? The truth is that the Torah view is Hashem is, Hashem is right there suffering with us. And as hard as that is to understand to our minds, it's the truth. There's an aspect of Hashem that's beyond, it's infinite, and it's beyond level of understanding. It's called Mimale Kolamim, completely above us. And there is a level of Hashem that's very real and that chose to be involved in this world, in the day to day. So there's a part of Hashem that's hurting, just like there was a part of Hashem hurting very much during the Holocaust. He chose to be affected by the actions of us humans. So the Baal Shem Tov, which was a big tzaddik in the 1700s, said that not even one blade of grass moves, sways from left to right without Hashem willing it to be so. Like, how fascinating. If a blade of grass is not moving without Hashem wanting it to, how much more so in our lives? Like every little detail, every wedding in Corona that needed to be canceled or postponed, every little detail in our lives is run by Hashem. And how kind to know that, in these times that are hard, that we're not alone, that Hashem is suffering with us, and that there is a much bigger purpose that we don't understand. It's kind of like a mashal thinking of a baby trying to understand, going to a neuroscience, symposium. And the baby's like, completely beyond, he's like, no idea what's happening, like completely unaware. And this is only, it's only a difference of age. Maybe when the baby gets older and the baby reaches the age of 40, maybe the baby will have a bigger IQ than his neuroscientist. how much more so we are like comparing ourselves to Hashem, the chokhmah, the wisdom of Hashem. We're like babies. Like, what do we know? We're comparing here a baby and a neuroscientist. At least is apples to apples. They're both humans. They just have very different levels of intellect. But what about a human being and Hashem? It's a completely different existence. So we have to have the humbleness, right? To know, like, one, thank God we know Hashem is all loving. He really cares about us, and he chose to be involved in this world, and he chose to be involved in our day-to-day lives, and he's with us in our pain, and he's hurting. It says that Hashem was hurting when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, and he's hurting that we're in Galut right now. So when we have doubts, and we have to remember, wow, like, my thoughts are not like your thoughts. So it's both hand. It's double-handed. On one hand, my thoughts are not like your thoughts. We can't understand Hashem. On the other hand, we have a mitzvah to learn Torah in order to become more godly-like. The more we learn Torah, like now, the more I learn chess, the more I'm enjoying, because my boys are really good at chess. And I didn't enjoy it so much playing it with them because I was playing very like basic moves. The more I learn about chess, the more excited I get. The more I'm into the rules, the more I know what to do, the more exciting the game becomes. So it's the same with Hashem and with the Torah and with our relationships with Hashem. The more when Torah becomes like, I don't know, like, then it's like, whatever. The more relatable it is, and we can choose. It says that every person has an aspect of Torah that they're more connected to. Parshat, the Midrash. Some people love the esoteric part. Some people love to learn the history, the prophets. So there's a part of us that can really be connected to that level of the Torah. So I give us a bracha all that we should really use this time to learn Torah, to learn anything. There's so much out there. Chabad.org has so many articles. There's so many shiurim. And within the shiurim to choose, again, something that speaks to your soul. Something, a shiur that, because there's many teachers, but all of a sudden this teacher is touching my neshama more, and then Luis is connected more to another person, and Yvette is more, her neshama is more from this level. So we all have to find what excites us, what makes us like really get excited and connected to Torah, right? So another mashal that's really beautiful, that another story that I really like, there was once a king, sorry, let me just mute. Just gonna mute somebody because it's distracting me right here. Sorry. You can unmute yourselves. I'm just gonna mute it. Yeah, okay. So there was a king who was coming once to visiting all the villages of his kingdom. And there was a competition to make the best wine. So all the villagers are excited and they're collecting the best grapes. And they're like, this is the once a year that the king comes to visit the village. So they're so excited. In one of the villages, the people were like, you know what? They would present the king with this huge barrel where the king would come and taste. So the people said, some people were like, you know what? If I don't want to really use my good wine and have to squeeze all these grapes. If I mix a little bit of water, like nobody's going to notice. Like what's like a little bit of water and like 1,000 liters of gallons of wine? Okay, big deal. Okay, so a couple of villagers apparently had the same thought. So the day comes when the king comes to visit the famous village, and lo and behold, he goes to the barrel and he tastes the wine, and it's plain water. The king is so disappointed and upset, and he right away understood what was happening, what the villagers were doing. Right? What were they doing? They were trying to get away with like, nobody will notice. And diluting the Torah. Like how many times in our lives we we justify ourselves, or like, I know I'm not supposed to speak Lashon Hara, but is it really Lashon Hara? But this time I really, really want to share this about this person. Like, we allowed ourselves to, we cut corners and we allow ourselves that little room for, the wiggle room. But what happens? The more we do that, the more we're telling ourselves, it's okay, it's okay. We become desensitized. So then we do it again. and then we do it again. And then we don't feel it anymore. We're not even feeling how disconnected we are from Hashem, and we don't feel it. It just becomes like part of our being. And we all have, aspects in ourselves. And thank God Hashem made us like that. Hashem didn't make us angels. Hashem made us that we have to constantly work in ourselves. And he loves that. He loves the struggle. So our work, our avoda, is not to cut corners and to just be like, where can I push myself just a little bit more? Like, okay, I don't want to say more Tehillim. Can I say one more? It's like when you're doing push-ups, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Can you do 5 more? And then you do 5 more. And maybe after you feel like doing 10 more. And it feels so good because you push yourself. You show your brain that you could do it, right? That's when you're exercising true freedom of choice, bechirat nafshi, when you're not listening to just your instincts. So if we can do it like on a physical level, like, oh, let me walk 5 more blocks. We for sure can do it with Torah on the positive, like, let me just learn another page. And then I can also do Netflix. Fine. It's fine. We're humans. We can bring it all together. But can we push ourselves a little bit? Can we bring a little more light? Can we make that one phone call about, I really don't want to pick up the phone again, or I don't want to call this friend. Can we make it? Can we just make it? And can we push ourselves just a little bit more and make ourselves more godly-like by doing that? So let's go a little bit into the Parsha now this week. And again, if somebody wants to stop or wants to comment on something, go ahead. The Parsha this week is a double Parsha. It's Chukat, Balak. And many interesting things happen in this Parsha. In Parsha Chukat, 3 main things happen. One, it's the mitzvah of the red heifer, the red cow. And I'll explain what that is. The second thing that happens is that Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Moshe and Aaron, passes away. And when she dies, the water, there was a well called Be'er Miriam. The water stopped. The Be'er stopped giving water after 40 years in the desert. All the time that Miriam was alive, the Jews had this water in her merit. And the third thing that happened, which is the famous story of Moshe hitting the rock, the waters of strife. This comes in this week's Parsha. A lot of Gevura, a lot of strong things happen in this Parsha. So let's go a little bit in depth and bring a lesson to our lives. So let's explain first the red heifer. So what is it? So there's a mitzvah of the red heifer was a red cow that you would burn it, and you would use the ashes, and you would mix the ashes with water, and you would use this mixture to purify a person who became impure, who became tameh. How did a person become tameh? Again, this is a spiritual concept, a spiritual tuma, level of impurity, by touching a dead body. If a person would be in contact with a corpse, with a dead body, they would become impure. And the only way that they could become pure again, tahor, in order to go back to the Beit HaMikdash, in order to serve Hashem, was to be sprinkled with this mixture of the ashes with the water. They would be sprinkled on the 3rd day and on the 7th day with these ashes. They will immerse themselves in a mikvah, and then they will be pure tahor again. The strange thing of this mitzvah is that the person that, let's say person A and person B. So person B became tameh through touching a dead body. So now person A has to sprinkle the ashes into person B. So the person that's sprinkling the ashes becomes tameh themselves. So it's a very strange mitzvah. And this is a mitzvah that it's called a chuk. A mitzvah, it's a supra-rational mitzvah, something that we can't understand. It says that Shlomo Melech, the wisest of all men, Shlomo, King Shlomo, he came up to this mitzvah and he was puzzled. He's like, Hashem, I don't understand your ways. So that's what a chok means. A chok, it's a level of Hashem which is beyond our understanding. And also like shadness, wool and linen, right? Or even kashrut. And we'll go a little more in depth, but I wanted to explain that there's 3 levels of mitzvot. Mishpatim, edut, and chokim. So mishpatim are laws that are kind of like common sense, like don't steal, don't kill. Even if Hashem wouldn't give it to us, we would have figured it out. Like, like Hammurabi code, we would have figured out, okay, to live together, to live in peace, I shouldn't kill you because then you're going to kill me, or I shouldn't steal because then you're going to steal from me. So mishpatim are laws that we would have figured out ourselves. That's one level. The second level is edut, which are testimonials. Those are mitzvot that we would not have figured out by ourselves, but now that Hashem gave it to us, we're like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Like Shabbat, oh, that makes sense that 6 days a week we work and it's nice to have a day of rest. Once Hashem gave it to us, we can understand them. And this third level is the level of chok, which is beyond our understanding. And the truth is, and this is what the Parsha comes to teach us, that even though there are mishpatim and there's a dut, all the mitzvot should be kept as a chok. All the mitzvot should be kept just because Hashem told us so. And how relevant right now, like we see it, like, okay, it makes sense not to kill. Clear, right? Not so clear. What about if it's a baby inside a mommy's tummy? Then it becomes okay to kill, right? Abortion. It becomes like there's wiggle room. Of course, and the Torah comes and it says, no, the Torah is very, very, I wasn't sure if it wasn't clear. The Torah obviously is against abortion, right? It's very clear in the Torah that life is it's considered a life since the moment that the baby's, like the embryo gets together. But what I'm saying is that if we use our sechel, like, okay, this makes sense to me. I'm not going to kill you, but a baby in the stomach, it could make sense because then the mother, blah, blah, blah. When we start using our sechel, our intellect, too much, when we start rationalizing the mitzvot, it could become a problem. That's where it says that mitzvot should be kept as a chok. Yes, Hashem said so. And then let me learn more and go in depth. We know that there's now, according to science, there's reasons, there's benefits to keeping kashrut and to not mixing meat and milk. But that's not why we're keeping them. We're keeping them as a chok. We're keeping them because it's Hashem's eternal will. Because it's what Hashem wants. Again, Hashem chose to want to have a relationship with us. It's kind of like if a husband, for his birthday, he really wants he really wants a golf set, like let's say he's very into golf. And the wife, she can't stand golf. She thinks golf makes no sense. And she's like, you know what? His birthday's coming. I know what I'm going to get him. He really needs a new watch. Like, let me get him something that I really think he needs. But he said, he told his wife, like, you know what? Like, hey, darling, when my birthday comes, I really would like a new set of golf clubs. And the wife says, okay. But then she's like, I know better. You know, what he really needs is a watch. But the birthday comes and she buys him a watch. Like, is that right? Like, am I really listening to my husband's desire? He's telling me very clearly, I want a golf clubs. And if I really love this person, I'm going to give this person what they want. Hashem is telling us, this is what I want from you. No, you don't really mean it. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Let me do it my way. No. I really want the golf clubs. I really want you to keep this mitzvah. I really want you to keep Shabbat. I mean it when I say it. This is what brings me pleasure. Hashem is telling us, like Hashem put himself in the Torah and showed us his will. He's like, this is what I want from you. And sometimes we become obstinate and say, no, never mind. So we have to remember, right? Like, who are we serving? We're serving Hashem, and the truth is, like, just like in that silly story, if the wife would come with the golf clubs, even though she doesn't understand, what a beautiful relationship. The husband's going to be so happy. Thank you. You thought of me, even though you don't understand. And the wife's going to be like, wow, like it's going to be this level of intimacy because you listened to me. How beautiful. The same with Hashem. When we listen to Hashem, then we feel Hashem in our lives closer as well. It's a two-sided street. When we allow that space, then Hashem could really be a part of us in our hearts. So that's Parshat Chukat. And then comes Parshat Balak. Balak was a king, and Balak paid a lot of money to this sorcerer called Bilam. And he said to Bilam, I'm going to give you a lot of money, and I want you to go and curse the Jews. First question is, like, Balak, if he's so great, why would he ask, go curse the Jews? Why doesn't he ask Bilam for a bracha to bless him? Like, if Bilam has these powers, ask Bilam, like, okay, please give me a blessing that I should be successful and that I should win over the Jews and that I should have a lot of money. Why focus on the Jews, on the negative? So it says that a rasha, a bad person, cannot stand it. You know, when there's another person, is this level of jealousy, right? When a rasha, it's a person that has, like, no matter like how much they have, they're never happy if somebody else has more. Like, honestly, what do we care? Like, why is this obsession with, like, what is person A have? What is person B have? Hashem is infinite. Hashem can give all of us blessing. Hashem can give, like, everybody millions of dollars. Hashem can give everybody success. What does it make a difference if Hashem gave person A this? But for a rasha, there's no menuchat nefesh. There's no resting of the soul. Like it cannot be happy because that person is kind of like Haman with Mordechai. He couldn't be content because that one Jew, right? And obviously from the negative, we can learn a lesson from our lives. Like, we have to let go of even the tiniest things of jealousy. When we see, we should be happy. I'm so glad that you got that house. And, you know, and I should also get that house. I'm so glad that you lost that weight. And I should also lose that weight. We should be happy for each other. We should celebrate because Hashem is infinite. He can give everybody all the brachot, right? So that was one thing of Balak. And what happened? He told Bilam, go and curse the Jews. So he paid him a lot of money. So Bilam goes, it's really funny. And Bilam tries to curse the Jews. And what comes out of his mouth? Words of praise. Ma tovu alecha Yaakov. How beautiful are your tents, O Israel. He couldn't curse the Jews. Blessings were coming. And it's a beautiful parsha because Bilam, from the lowest level, you know what Bilam is prophesizing about? He's talking about? Bilam is one of the sources that from the Chumash where we learn about Mashiach. Bilam is talking about the days to come. The Bilam is talking about the days of Mashiach. How amazing. From the lowest levels, we can transform it into the most beautiful thing. And Bilam talks about Mashiach. And I thought how relevant for us, right, in our times to, as we learn Torah, to also learn a little bit more, all of us, you know, I just started learning myself again, like, what does Mashiach mean? I think we all have a very infantile imagery of what Mashiach is, you know, like the apples, they're growing on the tree and you know, this messianic world. And when we really learn about it, there's stages. It becomes, I'm seeing, the more I'm learning about it, the more it becomes a reality. Like, oh, first of all, according to Torah, Mashiach, it's a person, it's a king, and it's gonna come. So that's first thing, just to know. We have to know in order to, like, bring our emunah, like I was saying with the chess. The more I know the rules, the more I enjoy the game. The more I learn about Mashiach, the more I can be like, okay, the more I can give that belief to my kids, right? The more I know, like, oh, there's stages. It doesn't have to happen in a miraculous way. Mashiach will come. Mashiach is a person. And it will usher the time of redemption. And it will be it could be very gradual. It could be, you know, the gathering of the Jews and slowly we're going on to Israel, and it could be in a miraculous way. So I'm not going to go into depth in this. I just want to mention, if anybody wants to pick up a book or go Chabad.org, there's so much, and it's so empowering to really learn about Mashiach, because there's so much about it. And it's not just, oh yeah, we want Mashiach now, Mashiach now. It's like, what does it mean? Like, again, with knowledge comes power. Like, what does it mean, Mashiach? And then we're going to have a more of an understanding of, like, and a more of a desire for it in our lives. And this reminds me of a story that this is a nice story. There was a Yankel. He lived in Poland, and Yankel had a dream. And he had a dream that in Krakow, in Prague, there was a treasure by some workers. So he has a dream one night. He wakes up and he's like, oh, what was that all about? And he's like, whatever, dreams are, they're nonsense. And he continues with his day. Second night, Yankel goes to sleep. He has the same dream. There's a treasure that it's hidden under a bridge in Prague. So second night, he's like, again, he shares with his wife, and his wife is like, whatever, like nonsense. Third night, he's like, same dream. He's like, this is a message from God. He packs his suitcase and he goes, he makes a travel. He travels all the way to Prague. He doesn't know what to do. He reaches this bridge and he sees some workmen, and he's kind of hiding and, trying to find this treasure. He's really embarrassed because he's like, I have this dream and I came here because of this treasure. So the workers are looking at him funny, like they see that he's kind of like hiding. After the second day, they're like, hey, what's up with you? What are you doing over there? So Yankel goes, I know this sounds really silly, but I came all the way from Poland and I had a dream that there's a treasure that is hiding in this bridge. And the guy, one of the workers, starts laughing so hard. And he's like, oh my goodness, what a fool. If I would follow every dream I had a dream that there's a guy named Yankel, that he has a hidden treasure in Poland in his kitchen. And Yankel listens to that. He turns around, takes his suitcase, goes back home, and he goes into his kitchen. And lo and behold, he digs under his stove in the kitchen, and the treasure was right there. So you're very smart ladies. What's the mashal? What's the teaching of the lesson of this story? How many times, excuse me, how many times we go looking for treasures out there, like, let me see what this article says, or do you have the answer? Do you have the answer? And we come back home and the treasure is within us. We have the Torah, we have our neshama, we have our soul, that if we only just give it a little bit of room, it's right there. Every single person has a neshama, which is literally a part of God. It says Hashem infused every one of us with a spark. It's inside of us. So if we remember that we have this treasure, not out there, it's inside of us. If we just give it a little bit of space, just like we need, like a little bit of space to gather our thoughts, and we need time alone, just a little bit of space for our neshama to express itself through, again, learning Torah and doing mitzvot. We can really tap into that energy, and we can become partners with Hashem and bring more of Hashem's presence. With that's really what boils down to. That's what Mashiach is. It's bringing Hashem down into this world, into this reality. And I give us a bracha, ladies, that we should all really tap into that energy and feel how God is running our day to day, even when we're stressed, and even on the days that are really hard. Sorry, it reminds me of another story. I have to say, my mind keeps going. There's one more story that's a good one. This farmer is walking around and his donkey, all of a sudden he's going with his donkey, and this donkey falls into the pit, and it's all the way down, and he's calling for his donkey and he can't hear him, so he gives up, and he's like, he's so sad, his donkey is dead, he's crying for his donkey. So he decides in his sadness that he's gonna bury his donkey, right? The least that he could do is to bury his donkey, to give it a proper burial. So he takes a shovel and he starts putting dirt into the hole, and the more dirt he puts, all of a sudden he sees the donkey's right next to him. He's like, what? But I thought you were dead. He's like, what happened? Every little bit of dirt, the donkey wasn't dead. The donkey was just all the way down in the hole. So it couldn't come up. It couldn't climb. So every piece of dirt that was falling on his head would go back to his feet, and he could push himself with that and come out of the pit. What a lesson for us. Like every dirt that people throw onto us, or that the day throws onto us, doesn't have to be like dramatic, right? Like things that happen, or this or that, or the knee, or whatever. Every little thing is just an opportunity to be like, how can I use this to better myself, to come out of the pit, not to dig myself, God forbid, to come out of the pit, to transform the negativity into something positive, something that we could use and make ourselves better and better and better.